what I found in the traditional biblical counseling training that I was a part of for years, um, that as Kike mentioned, it's all good. It's all good material, it's good instruction. But what the Lord has shown me is that there are priorities in the essentials of biblical counseling. I call it gospel care. With the first one is an emphasis on competency. And that's like, I'm here to teach you. This is what you need to learn and grow in order to be an effective counselor. And what I focus on is yes, you need some skills, but more importantly, you need to know the comforter, God Himself.
Hmm.
And so as Kike had been sharing, it's about relationship, not only relationship through the equipping, but most primarily a relationship with the Lord and Savior Himself. The next one is biblical counseling does a really good job of drawing out the heart, right? Teaching skills and approaches to drawing out the heart. We do that somewhat, but as Kike was mentioning, as we're trying to develop a culture of care within the small groups, within every member of the church, what I find to be most effective is instead of focusing on drawing out the heart, which is a part of it, the more important priority would be drawing near to God and really abiding. And because as a as one who's been doing this for years, I am amazed that whenever God's people open up His Word and through the Spirit, how God will just speak in ways that I often don't even think about. It's not on my radar. But what I think is beautiful is to watch God's people, every member of the church hear from God and respond to God in ways that are life changing for them. The other emphasis in traditional biblical counseling training, as well as any counseling training, is a focus on the struggles. And the Lord has shown me over the years that what's most important, how He actually changes us, is is captured by 2 Corinthians 3:18. Like when we behold the glory of the Lord, He changes us from one degree of glory to the next. And then 2 Corinthians 5:14 through 15, when I am compelled or controlled by the love of Christ, I no longer live for myself. And so that's why we put an emphasis on helping people to know and experience the love of God, not conceptually, but personally and intimately. Um, and so the instruction on godly living is another aspect that's very important to biblical counseling. But what I find that's super helpful and reproducible easily, quickly, is teaching people the reason why we draw near to God, the reason why we experience His love is so that we can be freed to love God and love others. And so I,
Hmm.
I try to summarize everything in God's two great commandments. And that really clicks really easy for people. And it takes away, it can shift the emphasis in a proper way from the circumstance or from the struggle to the relationship that God has put in front of them. And where they're seeing how they're not loving like Christ loves them, how they're not forgiving, how Christ forgives them. And so those are just a few of the ways in which I wanted to expound on what Kike had already shared, what we emphasize. And based on our experience in the States, church members, pastors alike, they pick it up super quick based on their already established foundation of the word.